Did you ever have one of those mornings? First off, sorry about 907/908, and this is the reason that I bring it up. John here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us for Soccer's Morning Show, Soccer Down Here. Coming up in short order, as always here on Thursdays, we're pretty stacked. It's about the news of the day, getting you ready for the news of the evening. We got Open Cup to talk about. We've got Niko Moreno showing up about 10:30. Last half hour of the show, we get the Pacific perspective on what's on Nico's mind when it comes to Major League Soccer. Coming up in short order, it'll be Jason getting ready, and Maddie getting ready for a very, very busy weekend on a bunch of different fronts. It is Atlanta United getting ready to cross a border and take on an interesting case study in Toronto FC. So we'll get into that coming up with Jason when he crashes the party here coming up in just a little bit. Teams getting ready at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, and they are getting ready for road trips if you're talking first team, not a road trip if you're talking second team and the twos, because the twos have Carolina Core coming up in short order this weekend. Another 3 o'clock start Sunday afternoon up at the Fraction. You can catch that action here on the network. And a pregame show at 2:30, and action starts at 3 o'clock, and you'll have your full postgame show afterward as well. If you missed it, Maddie caught up with the head coach of first-year club Carolina Core, Roy Lassiter. And that was a great conversation. So if you missed that and the conversation getting everybody acquainted with Carolina Core, so you can catch up there, get you ready for the matchup coming up this weekend with Atlanta United 2 and Carolina. Once again, 2:30 on Sunday afternoon kicks that all off. John here, you there. And like I said, apologies for 907 and 8. It's already one of those mornings. And traditionally, when I'm starting all of the processes to get the show going, there literally is a certain process. There's a certain flow chart to hit buttons to make sure that, okay, here's the show, and here's what you're seeing, and here's what everything is going on. I failed to follow that protocol this morning. So literally at 9:05, morning, Abby. Literally at 9:05 this morning, I thought I'd done everything in the line to get everything all ready for the show. And I just started talking. Literally 9:05, I just was like, blah, 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 blah. Everything that you just heard was coming out of my mouth at 9:05. Unfortunately, there is a button that I have to push to make sure that you guys hear it as well. It's called Go Live. So I could do all of the pre-set up humanly possible. I could do all of that. Problem being, if I don't hit the Go Live button, all I'm doing is just talking to nobody here in the office. Well, actually, me and the Rowdy Man. Rowdy Man decided to come wandering downstairs. And so that's why I was 2 minutes late, because I was 2 minutes into the opening monologue and realized I didn't hit the Go Live button. I know that shocks you. So we've had those kinds of moments, and we had definitely those kinds of moments this morning here getting everything ready for the morning show. So once I did, in fact, hit the Go Live button and then followed it up with that, then everything was fine. But no, the idea is that you have to hit the Go Live button first and foremost. I know, Hutch. And it's not even, and Hutch, I give you full credit. Morning, Ricky. So, Hutch, I give you full credit for, letting me know about practice. But as a dear friend of mine once told me, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And unfortunately for me, as we are in season 8 of this show, I'm still having issues when it comes to perfect practice making perfect. Yeah. Yes. Don't let perfect be the enemy of. Hutch. I am of the Hall of the very good. I'm not a Hall of Famer. I am the Hall of good. I'm the Hall of very good at times. But yeah. So literally, the issue of hitting a button and getting everything squared away. That was the issue this morning. And before Jason pops in, Ricky's mentioning former MLS players just showing up for random Open Cup teams. Yeah, it was a bit of a late start for those of you that were following what was going on with the Des Moines Menace. And apparently Sasha Kleston, he's just like showing up. There you go. What's up, Jason? How close are you to getting to practice at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground?
I am just down the street, and I am now stationary, so I can chat.
Okay. We like stationary because if you were to chat in a moving vehicle, then it might be a bit of a problem for.
I don't like to do that. I know some don't mind it. I'm not a fan, especially when, and this is a very Atlanta thing. So if you're not from the Atlanta area, you're going to be very confused by this. A lot of people say going south on 75 and where 20 and 75 meet in the city is the most dangerous spot to drive with people trying to get over.
Mm-hmm.
I think going 75 north where 285 hits 75 north and you're trying to get off at Delk Road is a harrowing experience every single time.
Yes. I'm right there with you. And there are also some times when the computer generated directions lady will send you an exit north to get you off of the toward the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground and bring you south from that location. Instead of getting off at Delk, you go to the next exit, then you go over, and then you come south and you make it to the training ground.
I think your computer generated navigator Jacques Cousteau person is very strange because mine has never had me go that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I literally to keep off the traffic and everything that is getting off to where you're slowing down and having to do the loop-de-loop to come back over the top to turn north. Yeah, I got sent the next exit, then off, and then come south.
Yeah, my computer generated person is a savage. So
no, I'm I would not doubt that for a second. All right, so there's how long do we have you first and foremost?
12 minutes.
Okay, so then we go till 9:27. All right. So, do you want to start in discussing first team, second team, or the interview / signing / moment yesterday where Atlanta United added some help up top?
Well, I think they're all interconnected. Let's start with yesterday. Daniel Rios, a player that when the signing came through, my immediate reaction was, I love this signing. This is a player that over the years, I know I've talked about it here on SDH. I've talked about it with friends. I've talked about it with Jessica Charman when Rios was at Charlotte. And I could never figure out why he wasn't getting more of a run and more of an opportunity. It was the same in Nashville during his time there. The guy's a goal scorer. He's not going to wow you with dribbling moves. He's not going to wow you with big assists. He's going to put the ball in the back of the net. And now you've got to get his confidence back up. This is a guy who, when he came to the U.S., first on loan at North Carolina FC, and then he went to Nashville. He was their first MLS signing, played USL in Nashville in 19. Back-to-back years, 20 goals in USL Championship. And that's not easy to do. And then in the limited time and minutes that he's had in his MLS career in Nashville and in Charlotte, he's got double-digit goals. So he's a guy who can score goals. He's different than Jamal Tiare in terms of that backup striker role. So it's really good for Gonzalo Pineda and his staff to have two different profiles in that role behind Yorgos. It's going to push Tiare, who's been a little injury prone. It's going to give Rios an opportunity. And I think both of them are going to get service from the guys around them, whoever that permutation is this week and or in the future. But I love the signing. I think he is a guy who just hasn't had enough opportunities. And now you just got to get him back into the flow, build that confidence up, and I think it'll be a good signing for this club.
He's been a guy who's been in the score sheet against Atlanta United, and he also had a 4-goal outburst in one of his matches up in Charlotte. So not unfamiliar for a double negative this early in the morning, that he is a goal scorer in Major League Soccer and knows how to do that.
Yeah, he's a good striker, and I think he's a starter for some teams in MLS. I think he should have got more time in Nashville and in Charlotte, especially in Nashville, where they were constantly searching for a striker in those first 2 years. He could have solved some problems for them. And in Charlotte picked him up, and he could have solved some problems for them too, especially if they had realized that Karol Swiderski maybe wasn't the 9. And if they had played Rios up there, he might still be there, honestly, instead of them going to get Enzo Capetti. So all of that said, he's been back at Chivas. He hasn't played a ton. You got to get him back in rhythm. And that's going to be the challenge to make that happen quickly. But in a perfect world, and we'll put this weekend to the side, in a perfect world, you've got him hitting on all cylinders once you get into the summer, where we'll find out this weekend if Greece gets qualified for the Euros. And if they do, you're going to have Yorgos Giacomakis away for a good period of time.
When it comes to Atlanta United and Orlando City, what I usually like to do with guests that join midweek and beyond is, let the thoughts ruminate, marinate a little bit, and let them sit to the side. Now that you've had a couple days to kind of let that win ingest in your brain a little bit, is there anything else that has popped up in your thinking back over that particular win when it comes to getting full points in a game that you really needed to get full points at home?
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is just the way that Atlanta figured out how to solve the problems that were presented on the night. And there were 2 different things that stood out to me. Luis Muriel was very dangerous playing in that free role. I mean, Orlando on the team sheet was a 4-4-2. It really played a little bit more like a 4-1-3-2 in a lot of ways, or a 4-1-4-1, depending on how you want to put it. This is why formations are overrated, as I've said for years.
Yeah.
But Muriel was the wild card. He was listed as a forward. He played as a forward some. He dropped in as a 10 some. He played out wide some. He kept finding pockets of space, and ultimately kept him off the board. Yeah, he was dangerous at times, but they were able to solve that. And then on the other side, they were able to solve being a little bit cleaner on the ball and a little bit better on the ball as they went. And Orlando, I give Orlando full credit, and you have to give Oscar Pereira a ton of credit just for being the manager that he is. That was a tired team, and they didn't really play like a tired team. They were able to fight through it. They harassed Atlanta in build-up. They made it difficult to create opportunities, but Atlanta found a way. And these are the games that are going to happen this season. Sometimes you're not in rhythm. Sometimes you've got guys who aren't having their best night at the office, and you have to find a way to get it done. And they did.
You're coming into this road trip to BMO Field without 6 guys because of international duty. That turned into 7 because of the injury to Stian Gregerson. We don't have an ETA on any kind of recovery or getting back to full health to have him in the lineup. When it comes to what you are anticipating, not necessarily even starting 11-wise, but roster-wise, travel party-wise, heading north, what are you looking for first and foremost with Atlanta United heading to Toronto? How much of a twos influence are we going to have here, and how much of it is the depth that was constructed for moments like this for Atlanta United with this match coming up this weekend?
Well, this is why you build the depth that you do, and that includes Atlanta United too, because there's I'd say a decent chance that you see a short-term call-up or 2, and mostly for depth. Somebody like Javier Armas comes to mind for me because he spent so much time with the first team in preseason. You're missing Jay Fortune. You're missing Bartosz Slisz. So that's 2 in that holding midfield spot. Dax McCarty, I would think, would go into the starting lineup here. And then you need some extra cover. You're going to see guys who are on the first team roster who will play a good bit for the twos this year. That's a different conversation. I think in terms of short-term call-ups, Armas is the one that I look at. Noble Okello would be the other possibility. Be a homecoming for him going back to Toronto. He would give you more of that true 6 side of things, whereas Armas is a little bit more between a 6 and an 8. But Armas spent the time with the first team in preseason, so I think he's got the inside track to it. Noah Cobb, Efrain Morales, I think are battling it out to get the start next to Derek Williams, assuming that Williams is back and ready to go. He was cramping up at the end of the last game. That's not expected to be anything that carries forward. Ronald Hernandez likely going to start at left back, replacing Caleb Wiley. We've seen that before. Ronald had a really good training session on Tuesday. TRA up top, you would think, although if Rios is ready to go, maybe he gets into the mix. I don't think he's going to start because he's only going to have a couple of training sessions under his belt. And by the way, Rios has a green card, so you're not worried about a work visa for him. You do have to get the international transfer certificate processed. That's an easy process. That's faxes back and forth between federations. So barring any complications with that, he should be eligible for this weekend, but you have to assess him. You have to get some sessions with him. I think he potentially would come off the bench. The real question is the number 10 and how you do it. And there's 2 questions to it. Nick Firmino played that role a lot in preseason. Is he ready to go to start an MLS match? And then the other consideration that I think you might have to have is Firmino can also be cover at the 8 or even at the 6. And do you want to start him knowing that you might need more of the cover behind him? Do you want to move Saba Lobjanidze inside? Do you want to play Tyler Wolf inside as the 10? Those are both possibilities. I don't know. And that's going to be the interesting thought process and playing with the puzzle pieces that Gonzalo Pineda and his staff have to figure out, because there's not an easy, clear-cut answer to it. I think left back, clear-cut. It's Ronald Hernandez. I think center back, it's clear-cut between 2, and I'd say Noah Cobb has the inside track with a great preseason from him. But Efrain Morales had a very good opener for Atlanta United too. He has been very good in preseason as well. Gonzalo Pineda has shouted him out multiple times. I don't think it's a slam dunk that Noah Cobb is the starter next to Williams. I think Morales will be the cover at center back.
But
that's where you're at is you've got some that are easy and you've got some that we just don't know how you're going to solve the absence.
2-minute warning, and we're going to go inside CFL rules, so that way you can get to practice. But then that creates the trickle-down effect for us this weekend because Carolina Core comes to town. It's another matchup on the network starting at 2:30 with a pregame show on Sunday. So Steve Cook, while having to navigate his own ideas, is going to be keeping an eye on Toronto to figure out what his roster is going to look like on Sunday afternoon in MLS Next Pro.
Well, yeah, and here's the other trickle-down effect. It's good that this is this week and not next week, because Generation Adidas Cup is the following week for Atlanta United's academy teams. This week, all those guys are available, and what you might see as players go up to the first team from the second team and potentially play, get home at 3 a.m. or so, and then turn around 12 hours later and have a kickoff against Carolina Core. I don't know if they're going to be able to make that quick turn. You might look at the U19s, the UPSL team, sending more guys up. Somebody like Matthew DeJaney, who had 4 goals in the opener, was the Golden Boot winner in UPSL last season. Maybe he gets that opportunity in MLS Next Pro. Bane Smith, Stephen Herlock, they both got on the board against Dalton United. You might see some of those guys move up, and then that means you might see some of the 17s move up and play in UPSL on Saturday afternoon. So you're going to see movement across all the teams. That's why you have a whole club. That's the whole point here. For the twos match on Sunday, it's going to be really interesting. The one thing I'll remind people of is, remember last year, this time of year, this window, when Firmino and Alan Carlton and Luke Brennan all went with Atlanta United to Columbus and didn't feature in that game. But then they turned around and it was 24 hours after the game. You're not going to have quite as many hours to work with, but they turned around and all played for the twos the next day. That was a 7:30 kick for the twos the day after. This one's a 3:00. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
But I think you could see some minutes out of some of those guys, especially if they don't play in Toronto. They're there for cover, which you have to have. Maybe they're able to give you 20, 30 minutes off the bench on Sunday for the twos. We'll see.
Before you go, really quickly, Ropes wants to know about Matias Gajardo being a possibility in Toronto.
Yeah, he's another one. He's an interesting one because I see him more as a true 10, and I don't think he gets that spot over Firmino unless you are thinking, man, I'm going to need to hold Nick because he might have to replace Muyamba or even potentially McCarty in those holding roles because he's that versatile and he can do it. One thing that I will say that I saw in training on Tuesday, they were doing some, to really simplify it, some offense versus defense sessions. And the defense, it was line of 4 plus 1 in front, a holding midfielder. Gajardo was on the offensive side for the majority of it, but he did have some run with, I can't remember the exact defensive alignment. I know Hernandez was in that mix. I know Morales was in that mix. Cobb was in that mix. Matthew Edwards is another one who might go to Toronto. He was in that mix because he can play all over the back line, fullback and at center back. So, yeah, I think Gajardo is a possibility. I'd say Armas is the most possible from the twos. And honestly, Edwards might be the next one because he played with the first team in preseason, but his versatility on the back line at North Carolina and in the Atlanta United Academy, this is a guy who played left back, right back, and center back. So to have that as a just in case, you might need it.
Go to practice. Get out of here.
Bye.
Bye. All right, there goes Jason. Jason's leaving. He's got to go to practice. So, Ropes, thank you for that. That's the early 4-1-1 on a multi-pronged, three-dimensional weekend for Atlanta United. Atlanta United heading to Toronto, and I think they're leaving tomorrow afternoon early and hopefully getting out of here before the weather hits so it doesn't bog down their travel plans. They're up there tomorrow. They play on Saturday. Then Atlanta United 2 gets Carolina Core, and Jason has it pegged pretty accurately. It probably is going to be 12 hours from landing to kick. So if you land at 3 a.m., say, you're probably crawling into bed in whatever domicile you have close to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. And for those that would be brought into the mix for Steve Cook and Atlanta United 2, and we're going to catch up with Coach Cook tomorrow. So tomorrow will be 9 to 11. So we'll catch up with Coach Cook and get his thoughts on what it's like to mix up this particular version of stew. So Jason mentioned the trickle down. You've got Atlanta United. You've got the twos. You've got the U19s and UPSL who might be working their way into the lineup for the twos. Then the 15s and the 17s taking care of duty in UPSL. So that's why you have all these different steps. That's why you have all these different levels that can sit there and participate and pitch in and try to get everything squared away for competitions on a weekend. But it is going to be a weekend all over the place. Yes, Michael Valverde. We talking about practice, man. Not a game. Practice. We got to get there first before we can even get to what the deal is with the games on the weekend. Saturday, Atlanta United, Toronto FC. Sunday afternoon, Atlanta United 2, Carolina Core. U19s for Atlanta United and UPSL. So it's, literally it is a flow chart. It is you're over here, you're over here, you're over here. Hey, we need you to double back to do this, and do this. So that's what you're staring at here when it comes to Atlanta United. Daniel Rios. That was announced yesterday. And Jason mentioned it, back-to-back seasons, 20-goal scorer in USL Championship. And you saw those flashes of Daniel Rios in Charlotte, remember the 4-goal outburst that he had, and in Nashville where he scored against Atlanta United. So you get that different kind of striker to help you out up top. Rios gives you the speed. Jamal gives you the He gives you more of the physical nature and more of the driving nature there. So it's two different kinds of dudes that you could have up at striker to help you out, and you can never have enough firepower. You can never have enough firepower. So this is another great piece of work by Carlos Bocanegra in the front office, finding a loan deal and bringing Daniel Rios in, proven in Major League Soccer. And as Jason said, Jason's been very, very high on Daniel Rios as an individual because of what he's been able to show in USL Championship, what he showed, but wasn't given the opportunity to show more in depth in our activities in Major League Soccer with him here and the other two teams in the footprint. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Atlanta United and what to anticipate with Atlanta United, and a very, very busy weekend on a bunch of different fronts. So that's what you're looking at with Atlanta United. And we'll update you tomorrow on any kind of updates, any kind of anything when it comes to what's going on. Right now, you've got European activity going on, and that was the other thing that I was looking for. No, I don't want to. We'll talk about Todd Bowley eventually, but scores yesterday before we get into opening kickoff and get you ready for Nations League tonight. Paramount Plus and Univision. St. Kitts and Nevis knocked off San Marino yesterday. San Marino scored, but it was 3-1 St. Kitts and Nevis. That's match 1 of 2 that these two will be playing. But San Marino had the chance. Can they come back in match number 2 of this back-to-backer with St. Kitts and Nevis? But St. Kitts and Nevis got the Duke on the road yesterday, 3-1. So San Marino's losing streak continues, but they did score a goal. So we've got that to look at when it comes to our international friends from San Marino. The opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, there's your QR code. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, the 280-character app, or live on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15 with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yesterday, the Olympics draw came out. And the soccer draw, the women's national team in Group B gets Australia, Germany, and either Morocco or Zambia in the 24 Olympics. FIFA confirming that yesterday during the tournament draw near Paris. First competitive competition, because, you could have a non-competitive competition. The first competition involving Emma Hayes in charge, taking over after the worst finish in World Cup history last year, eliminated by Sweden in the round of 16. So Twyla Kilgore is going to be flying overseas to spend some time with Emma Hayes so they can get on the same page when it comes to how they want the women's national team to approach things going forward. Tournament play begins on the 25th in Nice against either Morocco or Zambia. They get the 2-leg playoff in April. Americans have played neither side. Won 4 of the first 5 Olympic medals to feature women's soccer in search of their first gold since the 2012 London Games, earned a bronze medal at the Tokyo Games in 2021. Number 4 in the FIFA rankings, worst position since the rankings launched in 2003. Americans, one of the 3 seeded teams for the tournament, alongside Spain and France. England, the number 2 team in the world, remember, failed to qualify for the Olympics. U.S. all-time 23-5-7 against Germany. The two teams have combined to win 6 of the 9 Women's World Cups. Previously met only once in Olympic play in 2004 semi. U.S. won that one 2-1. Australia has defeated the U.S. only once in 34 meetings. Scoreless draw in the group stage of the previous Olympiad. Met again in the bronze medal game. U.S. won that one 4-3. Morocco and Zambia each made their World Cup debuts last year. Morocco has never qualified for the Olympic tournament. Zambia made their debut in 2021. Twyla Kilgore, pleased with getting Group B because of the right type of travel, according to Jeff Kassouf, between Nice and Marseille. Kilgore and Hayes are supposed to meet today in person to figure out the draw, future plans. Emma Hayes is not starting her role until late May. Canada is going to face Colombia, New Zealand, and France in Group A. Spain is in Group C alongside Japan, Brazil, and the April playoff winner between Nigeria and South Africa. Men's draw was also yesterday. U.S. men get to compete for the first time in the Olympics since 2008. And I know that Bart Keeler, is frothing at the mouth over this prospect. And we've had him on in the past when there have been chances for the U.S. to qualify in these kinds of tournaments. And he has opened up both barrels on the program for not qualifying. Now they're in. Group A, France, New Zealand, and the winner of a playoff between Guinea, number 4 team in Africa, and the 4th place team from Asian qualifying. Remember, this is a U23 competition. Each team is allowed 3 overage players. Marko Mitrovic said, first, I believe we've got enough talent to compete. That's the starting point. Second thing, the commitment the players have is also something very appreciated from the whole staff. Then the excitement, actually, that we have to go to the Olympic Games and the positive vibes that makes us, I would say, confident, but also I believe we're going to be ready for the challenges ahead of us in the Olympic Games. So Marko Mitrovic at the news conference, he's quite happy about things, and we'll see how it lays out. But that is the layout for both men's side, women's side in the 5-ring circus coming up in short order. And next time we have Bart on, and it may end up being tomorrow, considering that Nations League is tonight with the U.S. and Jamaica. And we'll get into that discussion in just a little bit. But after U.S. and Jamaica in the Nations League semi, Bart anticipates joining us tomorrow. My guess is Bart will be joining us right out of the blocks before we talk to our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, hopefully at 9:30. Get you ready for the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later at 10 o'clock. Get you ready for the weekend across all divisions. And we're out at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning because we got to catch up with Steve Cook on a very, very busy weekend for Atlanta United across the board. But 7 o'clock Paramount Plus tonight, U.S. Jamaica CONCACAF Nations League semi. They're blowing up their coverage. I think they're going to start their coverage. They probably already started their coverage with morning footy. And Paramount Plus will be discussing it all day long, as they should. So 7 o'clock tonight, semifinal, U.S.-Jamaica in CONCACAF Nations League, getting ready hopefully for a match on Sunday, which would mean we would get to talk to Bart on Monday and on Friday, meaning tomorrow and on Monday, to discuss either succeeding or failing, which would make Bart that much more fired up. So that's where that conversation lies. So just keep an eye on all of that, and we get to roll forward. Open Cup yesterday. In addition to everything else that's been going on, the juice boxes, by the way, only gave you they gave you the 8 matches yesterday in Open Cup. And having, as Ricky said, basically just random dudes wandering in and letting you see what's going on with them. That's part of the fun. God bless the Open Cup. So, once again, before we get into Open Cup, I would be remiss if I didn't close off the segment. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching, on the 280-character app, on Twitter, and on Twitch, and on our YouTube channel. Once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Housekeeping before we get into Open Cup. Here's your scarf. Once again, remember, to benefit the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, $32. It's a summer scarf. Doing a winter scarf for the Marshall Islands in the middle of the Pacific probably would be kind of counterproductive unless you wanted to use it as maybe a blanket when you're on the island. But This helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation build from scratch. They were in Northwest Arkansas, reaching out to the Marshallese population, brought some Marshallese players in to help build the program. They're starting on the futsal level and trying to come back in the fall during American football season in the colleges and to continue to build the Marshallese and the Marshallese impact and influence. So once again, 32, and the Abstermobile will deliver it to you if you should so desire. If you want it put in the mail, it's 32 plus another 5. I'll go to the postal service and we can get that done. So once again, you get to help build the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation budget from scratch. I know some of you bought the jersey. I know some of you bought the bucket hat as well. Here's your chance to get the third item. It is the scarf to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You can go to their website. They've got an app on Android. I don't know if they have an app on Apple. And you go to the iStore. But you get to see Maddie modeling and being an international modeling superstar. She modeled the scarf for the pictures that were taken by Maddie and Liz. It's on their website, so you can help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. There's a form you can fill out in the Discord, and you can figure out delivery that way with the Abstermobile, or you can have us ship it from you. So reach out to the show, reach out to me, however you wish to do it. 32 plus 5 if you want it shipped to you. That helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. So there you go. All right. Open Cup last night. Richmond beat our friends from Christos 1-0. Adrian Billhart scored at 45 plus 1. Club de Lyon beat AS Frenzy. And AS Frenzy had to navigate the final 30-plus minutes down a man. A goal in the 90th minute got Club de Lyon into the next round. Our friends at One Knox, they knocked off Asheville City 2-0 at Greenwood Field. And it was having to do it 10-man. They had a 2-0 lead. Then One Knox gets a red. Chrysler gets a red card, and then it ends up being One Knox having to defend a 2-0 lead for the final 30 minutes. Greenville beat SC United Bantams last night in Columbia. Leo Castro scored in the 45th minute. And once again, our favorite walkover from the opening round, listed as a 1-0 win by Apotheos. When we know more about round 2, we'll let you know. Like I said, as of right now, we're going to be catching up with the commissioner of NISA, John Pruch. Should be Tuesday morning. And we'll get all of the information that we hopefully can glean from the situation involving a Georgia Lions SCFC, where they stand within the league, where they stand getting ready for the season, and we'll try and reach out to some other folks too. We might end up spending Tuesday on a deeper than deep dive about Georgia Lions SCFC. But did not happen. Apotheos ended up having a scrimmage last night amongst themselves at Silverbacks Park, trying to make the best of a bad situation. Red Bulls 2 hammered Hudson Valley 5-1 at Montclair. Hudson Valley had a red card in the 12th minute, and that pretty much opened up the floodgates for Red Bulls 2. 2-0 at the break. It was 5-0 at one point, or 4-0. Actually, it was 3-0. So 3-0. Hudson Valley scored to make it 3-1 with about 11 minutes to go. Red Bulls 2 scored twice, including Ibrahim Kusula at 90 plus 1, beating Hudson Valley 5-1. Chicago Fire 2 ended up with 6 on the board at SeatGeek and beat Chicago City SC by the final of 6-0. Minnesota United Loons 2 advance, beating Chicago House AC. Jordan Adebayo-Smith had a hat trick. Had a brace within 3 minutes. 90 plus 5 made it 3. So Loons 2 over Chicago House 3-0. Central Valley Fuego and Jermaine Jones were tied with FC Folsom at Folsom Lake College with 40 minutes to go. Got a goal with about 8 to go. They advanced 2-1. Spokane Velocity beat Ballard in Seattle last night with a goal at 90 plus 7. So Velocity advanced. Capo and Des Moines Menace went to penalties. Des Moines Menace at J. Sarah Field in San Juan Capistrano, California, ended up with going to penalties tied at 2. Des Moines wins 5-4 on penalties. And then that was where Ricky was mentioning Sasha Kleston just kind of wandering out on the field, being a part of things with Menace. Irvine Zeta Adenisa beat Mesoamerica in Irvine, California. Early goal, late red card for Mezzo. And then LA Force in Nisa beat Redlands FC at Long Beach Community College. And that final was 2-1. So no real surprises other than perhaps the length of some games. Des Moines Menace getting the win. Took them a while. And then you get the teams putting up the big numbers and then other folks just kind of squeaking by. So no real surprises in day number 2 of the opening round of Open Cup. Next matches for Open Cup. You've got 6 of them today, and they're all in the Eastern time zone. All in the Eastern time zone. So there's plenty to play with when it comes to Open Cup. And like I said, we got qualifying going on right now. We got friendlies going on right this very second across the board. AFC, African qualifying for the World Cup. Just to give you updates for you true degenerates. Late, Uzbekistan beating Hong Kong 2-0. China leading Singapore 2-1 with 30 to go. Indonesia, Vietnam just underway. Iran, Turkmenistan's at noon. Oman, Malaysia is at 2, along with the UAE and Yemen. Palestine, Bangladesh at 2:30. They're playing in Kuwait City. Qatar and Kuwait playing at 2:30. They're playing in Doha. 3 o'clock, Afghanistan, India. India's a minus 250. Iraq, a big favorite at home at 3 o'clock in Basra, taking on the Philippines. Nepal and Bahrain. Bahrain's a minus 3,300 at 3 o'clock. Saudi Arabia and Tajikistan playing in Riyadh. Saudi Arabia is a minus 310. Earlier this morning, the Kyrgyz Republic beat Chinese Taipei 2-0. Jordan beat Pakistan 3-0. Australia shut out Lebanon 2-0. Jordan Corey got the call-up for the Lebanon national team from South Georgia Tormenta, by the way. Very cool there. Japan over North Korea 1-0. South Korea, Thailand tied at 1. Myanmar and Syria tied at 1 as well. Nations League at 3:45, Gibraltar and Lithuania. I'm sure there's a big number attached there. All right, 7 o'clock Open Cup. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 matchups tonight in Open Cup. Steel City and Michigan Stars, that one is at 7 o'clock in Pittsburgh. Carolina Core gets to play Nova, Northern Virginia FC. And if you were looking for Bill Hamid, you found him. He's at Nova. Michigan Stars, by the way, favored at a minus 357. Nova, a big underdog. Carolina Core is a minus 222 on the board at 7:30. Chattanooga Red Wolves at Central High School in Harrison, Tennessee, taking on Brockton FC United out of Brockton, Mass. Red Wolves are a minus 1,000 in some juice boxes. Minus 1,250 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Also at 7:30, Crown Legacy at Matthews hosting South Carolina United Heat. Crown Legacy's a minus 1667. I don't think anybody as an odds maker in a composite wants to have anything that's a minus 1666. I think that just got adjusted. I've never seen a plus 666 as a favorite. I've never seen the minus 666 plus 666 as an underdog, a minus 666 as a favorite, or a minus 1666. It's always like 667 or 665. It's either side of the equation. I've never seen a minus 666 or a plus 666. Thank God. Also on the board, FC Motown, troublemakers in Open Cup, because they'll bring in some very old MLS players to help out. They're playing NYCFC 2 at Montclair. Odds on that one, NYCFC 2, a minus 147. FC Motown is basically a plus 295. Charlotte Independence, and for those of you that missed the interview that we did with Mike Jeffries, head coach and general manager of the Independence, leading into Open Cup, they're playing what they refer to as VE. Vereniging Erzgebirge. They're just playing VE in their mind. They have to travel to Langhorne Manor, Pennsylvania, and Cairn University to take on VE tonight. And that one's not on the board. Although some circles, I'm sure, have it. 7:30, Western Mass Pioneers in Ludlow, Massachusetts, are hosting the Murder Owls of Union Omaha at a minus 180. That's about right. Western Mass Pioneers at 7:30. The Lubbock Matadors and our friend Michael Hitchcock host Arizona Monsoon out of Nisa at Lubbock Christian University, 8:30. Dick's Sporting Goods Park Rapids 2 hosting Azteca FC, and Ventura County FC, otherwise known as Los Dos now. Los Dos is now known as Ventura County FC, where MLS Next Pro is continuing to try and find ways to market their products outside of venues and outside of cities. So Los Dos hosting Irvine Zeta FC2, and that one is at 10:30 across the network. So 10 matches, very, very busy day when it comes to Open Cup. And you know that you can go to ussoccer.com and you can watch them all and fall completely in love with the tournament. Yes, Mozos, Lubbock Matadors game day, baby, yes. So Lubbock Matadors are a part of the activity today, and they are at the LCU soccer field. They do not have juice boxes attached, but they are participating in the tournament against Arizona Monsoon, 8:30 Eastern time, 7:30 local. So we'll see what happens after these rounds, after these opening round matchups. We'll see what it looks like in the behavior for round number 2. We'll see what happens. But Mozos, glad to have you. I think this is one of the first times that you have spoken on the Twitch pitch. We welcome you. We are all of a welcoming environment here. So Mozos, welcome. Don't be a stranger. And thanks for hanging out with us on the 280 character app. All right. Niko Moreno coming up in about a half hour, and we will break down what is on Niko's mind after the after another round of stuff going on in Major League Soccer. So we'll get Niko's thoughts on the match day out a little after 11, because once again, remember, I was supposed to start the show at 9:05. I thought I started the show at 9:05, but I didn't, because I didn't hit the go live button. So, yeah, like 9:07, right at 9:08, after realizing, oh, crap, I've just been talking for 2 minutes. And I finally turned the go live button on and had to restart the show and basically re-say everything that I was saying in the first place. So, for those of you that caught the first 3 minutes of the show, I'd already said it from 9:05 to 9:08. I just had to say it live, actually, from 9:08 to 9:11 Eastern time. So, thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do. Whatever's on your mind, Thursday thoughts, it can be on anything. It could be on the U.S. and Jamaica. For those of you that are tied to the network, you got your notifications. Bart Keeler and the Soccer for US POD folks, they are up and running with their preview. That got posted to the network about an hour ago. So Bart and Thomas preview Nations League, the Soccer for US POD here on the SDH network, and you can catch up with them. We're going to, like I said, we're going to try to have Bart on tomorrow. Hopefully Bart will be in a good mood, but I'm sure that there will be things that Bart will kvetch about, regardless of result. And so we'll have Bart on Friday, and we'll have Bart on in his traditional spot on Monday in the 10 o'clock Eastern time slot to discuss what happened on the weekend. There are folks that are saying, and I understand that, you say things like this to gin up, to gin up support for whatever is going on in your mind. Questions raised by Bart and Thomas. Does the U.S. M&T roster pick itself? Who should start tonight? Should there be a win? Should there be an expectation of a big win? Jamaica is going to be coming into this one, somewhat dinged up. But obviously you can't sit there and go, well, they're just coming in and it's going to be a proverbial cakewalk. No, it's not. Never come in with that mindset. Greg Berhalter has admitted that they are going to be on, quote, higher alert than traditionally. And traditionally they're on high alert, but I guess this one they're on higher alert as they get ready for what is going to be happening tonight at Jerry World. So we'll see what's on folks' minds against a depleted Jamaica side in the semifinals. Explain. West Ham striker Michail Antonio dropped out of the roster due to injury. Leon Bailey and Trevante Stewart were dropped from Hamar Hallgrimsson's squad after breaking curfew in the previous camp. So no Michail Antonio, no Leon Bailey, no Trevante Stewart. Damari Gray, Shamar Nicholson suspended following second yellow cards picked up in the quarterfinal against Canada back in November. Berhalter said, yes, it puts us on higher alert. We're not taking this team lightly, and now with guys missing, it's even more serious. And to Berhalter's point, out of crisis comes opportunity. And so you have that moment if you are part of the Hallgrimsson 11 to get laid out right there in front of you. You get tapped on the shoulder in a situation like this because you don't have Antonio, you don't have Bailey, you don't have Gray, you don't have Nicholson, you don't have Trevante Stewart, and you're sitting there and you're going, you know what? This is a chance for me. So you could have a bunch of dudes who come out there for Hallgrimsson, and they're like, you know what? This is a chance for me to sit there and show them what's really going on in my mind. It's a chance for me to shine. It's a chance for me to show what I'm worth to my national team. So I can completely and totally understand. I can completely and totally understand why in a situation like this you want to sit there and go, you know what? That's on them. Gray and Nicholson got second yellows, but for Bailey and Stewart, that's what happens when you allegedly stay out beyond curfew. Michail Antonio's dinged up. So you've got a lot of striker power that is not there. But for Jamaica, it's a chance for those folks that would normally not be in this situation to show what you're made of. Not talking about Jamaica, the U.S. is about as close to full strength as you can get. Tyler Adams available for selection for the first time since the World Cup. Finally has the hamstring problem behind him at Bournemouth. Knock on wood. Tyler Adams said he felt he could play between 45 and 60 for the U.S. as he steps up his fitness. Turner, Ream, Jedi, Chris Richards, Gio Reyna. Well, Gio Reyna, allegedly. Here's how it was phrased by the news services that are in Dallas. The news services in Dallas phrased it this way. The midfielder discussing Tyler Adams. One of a number of U.S. players currently competing at club level in England, along with the likes of goalkeeper Matt Turner. Competing, he was. Now Mott Sells is the number one keeper at Nottingham Forest. Tim Ream, Anthony Robinson, Chris Richards, and midfielder Gio Reyna. I will venture a guess that possibly, probably, maybe, that Gio Reyna will play more minutes in this weekend of two matches than he has since he has been moved to Nottingham Forest. Your target number, I believe, is 39. Gio Reyna has played the sum total of 39 minutes ever since his new agent, who has a relationship with the owner at Nottingham Forest, Evangelinos Marinakos, basically said, hey, bruh, bring a guy in. Marinakos said, okay, sure. And Nuno has basically sat Gio Reyna. So I would venture to say Gio Reyna gets more minutes playing for his national team in this weekend than he will his entire time that he has been at Nottingham Forest. Tim Ream, 36, the oldest player on the roster. And so that's what you're staring at when it comes to the U.S. 7 o'clock, U.S.-Jamaica, 10:15, Panama and Mexico. The winners play on the weekend to win the CONCACAF Nations League. And it is being posited that if Greg Berhalter does not win Nations League, and I know why people do this, because they want to draw attention to themselves and their opinions. You set yourself up as a lightning rod, then win or lose, people will come after you. Because if, and let's just say if, I'm not anticipating, because all right, so let's check the juice boxes here. Let's check the juice boxes for these matchups. U.S. is a minus 270 to win. Jamaica to win is a plus 735 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. El Tri is a minus 128 to beat Panama at 10-15. Panama is a plus 384. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you are one of those folks that rants and raves and stomps your feet and takes your buck and a quarter staff and pounds it into the turf and sits there, and you want to, set the sparklers up in front of you and light a Roman candle and sit there and hold it in your hand and have it go. You're that person. And trying to draw attention to yourself and your opinions. If, with your megaphone, you set up tonight and the United States wins, oh, they should have won. Rawr. It was a depleted Jamaica side. Rawr. They should have won. That's the only thing literally missing is the rawr. If through some act of undivine intervention, something happens and you do not get a win here in the playoffs, knocking off Jamaica as you probably should at a minus 270, then since you have set up this narrative and dynamic that you want to draw attention to yourself, complete with the rawr, and you lose, if you're the U.S. men's national team, if something happens literally and you lose, then all of the megaphoning that you will have done draws more attention to yourself because of a negative. If you get through the matches today and get ready for the weekend, and the U.S. beats the winner of Mexico and Panama, and you've been megaphoning the entire time, complete with the rawr, oh, they should have done it. A team that's stacked against a depleted Jamaican side, yeah, you should have done that anyway. This is why folks in positions of authority across the board don't necessarily follow social media and don't watch a whole lot of media programming. So this weekend is setting itself up to be, yeah, you should have done this anyway, in the eyes of a lot of folks. It's also setting itself up to, well, if it doesn't happen, something falls down, then the sky is falling. And this was obviously Greg Berhalter's worst coaching effort as the head of the federation and of the senior team. So instead of analyzing things a match at a time, you have folks who are already sitting there and megaphoning and setting up a dynamic to continue to yell, kvetch, and moan starting on Sunday night, Monday morning, etc. Instead of taking things into their context, once again, I will be the first person to sit here and say, once again, that I am not a two-cycle person when it comes to coaching. I am not a two-cycle person. I'm just not. Ideas get stale. People tune out. That's why coaches in other sports, 5-6 years maybe. If you stay too long, you turn into Marty Schottenheimer. Message gets lost. You're not interested. You tune out. And then in those moments when you do tune out, bad things happen, man. Like I said, I'm not a two-term guy. Never have been. And we had discussed when the first term was up, who to bring in instead of a second term 3GB. And we now have second term 3GB. But the narrative is already being set up. Since you are in a semifinal, if the U.S. does not win this tournament, rawr! So that's where we are. Obviously, Bart will be with us probably, hopefully tomorrow. We probably won't see him. We will hear him because, he actually has real world stuff to do. But it will be intriguing tonight at 7 o'clock. At least it's the early game, East Coast time, to get your audience in the Eastern time zone across Paramount Plus and all of the other networks that are out there. But yes, get your roaring out of the way. Exactly. David mentions, yes, I had to retake the opening kickoff because the ball was still rolling. It was a hell of a lot more than that, David. I had kicked the ball thinking that the keeper was off his line and got it into the back of the net. And I'm celebrating, but there's no one there to watch it because the cameras weren't turned on. That's how bad it was. Yeah, it is the farm pitcher no-hitter syndrome. Absolutely. Got to stay focused. Talking about the USM&T. Michael's right on. Instead of having the guy called up from AAA who goes 5 2/3, gives up a run, and keeps his team in the game in like the ninth game in 5 days or something like that. That's what you're staring at. You got to focus on you. Make sure that you get done what you're out there to do. That's the biggest thing. And yes, David, you are absolutely correct. It is all Greg's fault Gio isn't playing. It is all his fault. Absolutely it is. Rawr! Say it with me. Michael is also hoping that the competition within the squad will keep him motivated. It better. It absolutely better for both Jamaica and the United States. Because in a situation like this, once again, we talk about out of crisis comes opportunity. Out of crisis comes opportunity for Jamaica and for the United States going forward. You want to keep your spot. It's not crisis turning into opportunity. It's more opportunity turning into opportunity. If you have the idea there that you're looking at, I want to start for club and country. You are going to come in motivated, and you're not even gonna blank and look at the opposition in a tournament like this. If your roster is what it is, and this is a stacked blank roster, this is a stacked blank roster. That's what you're looking for here. That is absolutely what you're looking for. You want to make sure you're focused on you. You take care of business, BIDNESS, and you get done what you get done. You want to start? You want to keep going? You absolutely take care of business. So that's where you are. Did you see yesterday? See, and now everybody, and Ricky, I know that, and I know that Ricky mentioned this earlier on. Now I'm to the point to where I might actually try and grab a Sasha Kleshin Des Moines Menace jersey or T-shirt or whatever, just to celebrate what's going on. And then I might have our buddy Kevin Egan see if he can get it signed. But yes, so Sasha Kleshin dialed up in the Des Moines Menace jersey. I thought that was awesome. Yesterday, did you see that the NWSL is pairing up with Liga MX Femenil for a Summer Cup? I thought this was great. I thought this was a great idea. As much as a degenerate as I am, where I will watch Liga MX Femenil on 2 to NA early on Monday nights, like late in the afternoon and early in the evening, they'll do Liga MX Femenil doubleheaders. And that's a fantastic idea by 2 to NA, by the way. NWSL and Liga MX Femenil are doing a Summer Cup. 5 groups, 20 clubs. Group A, and you end up with 3 teams in Group A and Group B, 3 NWSL sides and a Liga MX Femenil side. Group A, Portland, Seattle, Utah, Club Tijuana. And they're doing this geographically, which is also great because it cuts down on travel expenses. Group B, Angel City, San Diego Wave, Bay FC, and Club America. Group C, Kansas City, Houston, Tigres, Pachuca. Group D, Gotham, Washington, Red Stars, and Chivas. Group E, Orlando, Courage, Racing Louisville, and Rayadas de Monterrey. New tournament, 20 teams, the 6 best Liga MX teams based on points last year. Kicks off July 19, 30 matches, 5 groups. 4 best group winners advance to the semis on August 4. Final gets played in a FIFA window just before Halloween. All but one match, Tigres and Pachuca in Monterrey, is scheduled to be played in the United States. Very, very cool idea. Morning, Modiflow. Very, very cool idea, and a kudos and a tip of the hat to our friends at the NWSL and Liga MX Femenil. And yes, Hutch, involving Gio, it is time for a parent-coach conference, among other things. Michael says, I hope he gets to see the Adams Musa midfield for a little while at least, missing that magic. All right, so then now that Michael has put this to the floor, what do you guys want to see, guys in the collective sense? What are you anticipating out of the match tonight? Niko Moreno joining us in about 20 minutes. What are you anticipating from the match tonight with the USMNT? What do you want to see? Since Michael has pushed the Adams Musa midfield idea, what do you want to see out of the match tonight? What are you looking for? What are you hoping for other than a win? I mean, I know obviously, unless you really want to root against the Stars and Bars, what are you looking for tonight in the USMNT match in the CONCACAF Nations League semi? I want to know what you're looking for when it comes to lineup, when it comes to result, when it comes to relationships. What are you looking for? Who do you want to shake off? Who do you want to have shake off the rust? Who do you want to have work their way through it? What do you want to see tonight, 7 o'clock, as we get you ready for the U.S. and Jamaica? And Rich, welcome back, by the way. Hey, yo. See, now, if you were to take the matchstick or the toothpick and just sit there and flick it right at the computer monitor, everything would be complete. And that reminds me, I need to add that one as another one of the drops that I need to add. Because yesterday, when we went through all of the drops for Tyler, the Scott Hall drop was not among them. So I need to add that to the mix. So I need to add that. I need to add that to the drops that we have in addition to everything else. I've got a list, by the way. I have a list of drops that I need to pull, that I need to add to the stacks. That is one of them. Rich, thank you for doing the Lord's work and reminding me that I need to pull that and I need to add that drop to our hotkeys. So USMNT tonight, what are you anticipating? What are you expecting? What do you want to see? Hopefully, as it leads into a matchup in the finals against the winner of Panama and Mexico at Jerry World in front of a crowd slightly larger than friends and family. So there's that to look into this morning as well. But yeah, the NWSL Liga MX Femenil to work its way through. Really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to seeing that continue to grow as well. And I know that some folks were out there and they were ishing on just saying what it is, as opposed to coming up with some title like the USL League One Cup with our friends at the Jägermeister, the shot at glory. So you got those kinds of things. Give it time. You've got the tournament. It's out there. Good to know. All right. Let's go overseas for about 15 minutes and take a peek at what's going on over there. From our friends at the Telegraph, I found this interesting. It appears, according to Sam Wallace, that Ben White rejected the England offer to be a part of the national team after a Steve Holland remark about his interest in football. The rift that led to Ben White's self-imposed England exile, and this is from our friend Sam Wallace once again at the Telegraph, began with a comment from Gareth Southgate's assistant Steve Holland in front of teammates at the World Cup last year in Qatar, 2 years ago in Qatar. It understands it eventually led to White asking to come home from their Doha base in November that year. Started with a conversation between the player and Holland in front of other members of the squad. Described by sources as having begun when Holland asked Kyle Walker a question relating to Manchester City's performance in the previous season. When he asked the same of White relating to Arsenal, the 26-year-old said he didn't know the answer. It's claimed Holland responded by saying that was because White was not sufficiently interested in football. That moment apparently ultimately led to the player asking to come home November 30 of 2022. The exchange was understood to have been days before the player asked to leave the England camp in Doha. Until that request was delivered, Southgate and his staff thought that there was no longer an issue between White and Holland. Not so fast, my friend. No row or clash, public or private, between the pair. Subsequent to the initial comment from Holland, the two men did exchange their views in a private conversation on the same day. The FA made the announcement November 30. White had left the hotel in Al Wakra for personal reasons. And yes, I did just use air quotes for those watching the video version. And asked that his privacy be respected. Details about the original exchange between Holland and White that led to the divide suggest the player's issue was the public nature of it occurring as it did in front of a group of his peers. At the heart of the problem appears to be a question of the respect accorded to the player. White was not in the first choice 11 in that tournament, although it's not understood to have been the key reason for his unhappiness on his part. Southgate announced last week the Arsenal defender made himself unavailable for selection for England, adding that he did not know why that was the case. Southgate also went on to say it was unrelated to White's relationship with Holland. So if Gareth Southgate doesn't know why Ben White didn't make himself available to England, and then he goes on to say that it was unrelated to the relationship with Holland, Holland, not Haaland. So Southgate adds he doesn't know why White made himself unavailable for selection, but then went on to say it was unrelated to the relationship with Steve Holland. Got it. Check. Southgate said also, I should say there's never any issue with Steve Holland and White because that has sort of been mentioned in articles, and I don't like that, end quote. Okay. The issues become significant enough. The rift not only saw White return from Qatar just after the final group stage game against Wales, but also meant he's chosen not to play subsequently. Southgate said that there was a, quote, reticence on the part of the player to resume international duty when he spoke to him in the months after Qatar. How many attempts, according to Wallace, Southgate's made to recall White since the World Cup is not clear. FA has declined comment. Arsenal declined comment. White's reps have declined comment. Southgate has been adamant the issue is not with Holland. Holland. Arsenal has announced that White signed a new deal with the club through 2028 with a one-year option. Door remains open, but frankly, it don't look good. Now, back to stupidity down here. We can go ahead and roll the clock. We can roll the numbers back to zero. And unfortunately, it has to do with our friend Jess and her beloved Reading. Reading target takeover exclusivity by the end of the month. Dai Young is considering offers. And so now we're back to hearing from Ginevra Associates, one of the two leading contenders to become preferred bidders as pressure mounts on Dai Young to sell. Now, Ginevra is no stranger to takeovers and wanting to do a takeover, because I mean, if you go back to late November of 2023, Ginevra was winning the race back then. Remember, Mike Ashley was interested. Ginevra was interested back in November and early December. But Ginevra, the European-based hedge fund, had been in advanced talks with Dai Young over a potential deal. They pulled out of negotiations back in November and December. early December of last year. Late November, they were negotiating. They pulled out of negotiations. Negotiations stalled. Dai Young had made a number of significant changes to the final terms of sale. Ginevra was hopeful back in December of being granted exclusivity, believed Young's latest demands delayed the process. So Ginevra and Reading are not strangers to one another. Luxembourg American-based fund publicly confirmed that they were seeking a bid as far back as October. October, November, December. Ginevra was also interested in a piece of Manchester United before Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and this was like a year ago. Part of the initial thoughts, and they were kicking the tires on Manchester United with the Glazers. So you end up with now Ginevra back in the game, according to John Percy, aiming to enter exclusivity talks this month for a potential takeover. One of the groups who've had detailed talks with Dai Young this week. 2 other bids on the table for the club, once again, who've been deducted 16 points under Dai Young. Reading planning to sign a letter of intent with the selected bidder by the end of the month. Telegraph has also learned the threat of another points deduction this month likely to be avoided. Reading is under pressure to pay their liabilities for this month or face further sanctions from the Football League, but £1 million is to be covered by sponsorship funds. This removes the immediate threat of another 2 points being docked, which would have dragged Ruben Sayas and his players closer to the relegation zone. Remember earlier this week, the sale of the training ground to another local club and competitor and rival, Wycombe Wanderers, that's on hold. Nigel Howe is helping Dai Young with the sale, hoping that what we're doing is working through a process that'll take 6 to 8 weeks. So, Ginevra back in the game, and so we'll see. Sadly, though, I'm not really holding my breath, considering how many times that Dai Young has moved the goalposts, to make an American football reference. I'm just not. I will believe it when I see it, and that is sad for Jess, for everybody who is in a situation like this with your favorite club. It's disappointing, and once again, let's just go ahead and roll the number back to 0. 0 days since stupidity down here. I would anticipate. See, now what's the phrase? Was it fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? Ginevra's already been down this road once before. What makes them think that going down this road a second time is going to be any different? Like I said, we'll track down Jess, and I know that Jess is one of the busiest working folks in soccer. I want to ask Jess about this. I want to ask her about Charlotte. I want to ask her about Dean Smith. I want to ask her about not that Dean Smith, but the one at Charlotte FC. I've got a bunch of questions for Jess. We've got to figure out when we can have Jess on the show. And yes, I want to talk about Reading. And yes, Hutch. Sorry, Coach, I'm feeling a bit reticent this morning. Yes, absolutely. I've never had that happen in a conversation. Yeah, I'm feeling a little reticent. Although it wasn't a Lake Street Dive lyric in one of their early tunes. But, for Ginevra, what makes them think that things are going to be any different? Does more desperation, is the amount of desperation in direct proportion to the ability to negotiate? We don't seem to put stupidity and ego attached to those particular ideas. But is it a direct proportion between desperation and the ability to want to try to negotiate and get something done? Not when ego's involved. But Ginevra went down this road before. They were ready to do business. Dai Young changed the rules. He changed the negotiating. What makes them think that things the second time will be different? You think you're going to get it cheaper? Dai Young has kept his head in the sand for a lot of the time. He's got a set of ideas. He's going to change those ideas. He'll move the goalposts again. I'm not that optimistic. I don't know why Ginevra is. Hedge fund went down this road once before. Now they're going down it again. Why? Are you that confident that the room will change? Man, I don't know. I'm not optimistic. I'm really not. Jacob Steinberg at The Guardian says that Chelsea faces more supporter dissent after being warned that a slide towards, quote, irreversible toxicity in the stands is likely to end in protests against the ownership. Letter sent to Bowley and Todd Bowley and Bedad Iqbali. Supporters Trust cited concerns about higher ticket prices, cost of merch, travel to games, and a lack of communication from the board. The CST, which said that Chelsea had, quote, become a laughingstock on and off the pitch, quote, end quote, since being bought by Bowley Clearlake, pointed to anger and frustration over a sense that supporters are being used to raise revenue streams. What? No. Supporters are being used to raise revenue streams? That never happens. Raheem Sterling was booed after struggling during the win against Leicester in the FA Cup. Pochettino and Bowley abused during the draw at Brentford. CST said the current feeling amongst Chelsea supporters, in our opinion, is at its lowest since the early 1980s. A significant number of supporters we speak to are quick to express concerns that the lack of any public-facing vision from the new ownership has led to an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Chelsea Supporters Trust regretfully believes we are close to, if not already, experiencing a significant shift in supporter opinion that could result in irreversible toxicity, almost irrespective of results on the pitch. Unless the situation improves, this seems likely to manifest itself in more targeted chanting, especially at televised games, and quite possibly more organized, overt, and impactful forms of protest by some sections of the fan base, end quote. It claimed this pledge by the owners that they would explore every commercial avenue possible in an attempt to bring Chelsea's income in line with other major Premier League clubs. Charging supporters more would be done as a last resort. But that claim and the claim of that pledge had been broken by a number of price increases and budget cuts. Prices for coaches to away games increasing by £53. Replica kits by $5. Tickets to cup matches by £1 to $13. Programs by 50p. Youth fixtures by $2. Women's matches by record amounts, whatever that means. And food and drink and general admission areas by 5 to 15%. So instead of paying $1, you're paying $1.10 by comparison. It remains to be seen if Chelsea had not revealed season ticket prices this summer. CST's hot over a lack of engagement with fans centered around silence from Chelsea. 11th in the league despite spending more than £1 billion on signings in the past 2 years and over their stadium redevelopment plans. Mark Meehan, the chair of the CST, criticized Chris Jurassic, Chelsea's chief executive, for failing to respond to concerns raised in the original letter. Meehan said, quote, "We are supporters, not customers." I hate to break it to Meehan, but you're both. You're both a customer and a supporter. Hutch is a firm believer that Chelsea fans need group therapy. Is Lucy Van Pelt available for Chelsea supporters? Just thought I would ask. Before Nico Moreno hops in, what to watch and where to watch it. Like I said, it's been a very busy day. Asian qualifying has been going on full blast. Euro 2024 qualifying playoffs. Georgia and Luxembourg is at 1 o'clock. No Saba Lobjanidze for Georgia. He's hot about it. He should be. Wales and Finland at 3:45. Nations League semis on 2 to NA and on Univision and on Paramount Plus. Ecuador and Guatemala are on pay-per-view and a friendly at 8:30. Once again, USsoccer.com, USLsoccer.com gives you your matchups in the Open Cup. VIX has Euro 2024 qualifying playoffs. Georgia, Luxembourg at 1. 5 more at 3:45. Greece, Kazakhstan, Wales, Finland, Israel, Iceland, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Ukraine, and Poland and Estonia. That is what to watch and where to watch it today. Getting into gossip, rumor, and innuendo before Niko Moreno joins us. Spurs preparing a move for Conor Gallagher. Contract expires in 25. Liverpool, Spurs, AC Milan among clubs interested in Tosin Adarabioyo. Fulham want to offer the former Manchester City player a new deal. Spurs also interested in Rafinha. Chelsea entering leading the race to sign Victor Osimhen. PSG remain interested. Napoli won €130 million for him. Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United interested in Shakhtar Donetsk midfielder Georgi Sudakov, valued at €100 million. Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea among the clubs interested in Nottingham Forest defender Murillo. 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Liverpool can make a third attempt to sign Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth. United's Kobe Mainu, close to signing a new deal with the Red Devils. Thiago Silva, regular contract with former club Fluminense, as he looks to secure a return home when his Chelsea contract runs out at the end of the season. 3-letter paper. Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, Gary O'Neill all could be in the running for the England job if Gareth Southgate leaves for Manchester United. Bayern Munich could turn to Jose Mourinho to replace Thomas Tuchel if they can't land Xabi Alonso. Chelsea and Spurs, Antonio Conte, former boss, wanted by Bayern Munich. Jorginho set to be offered a new deal by Arsenal. Benfica's Angel Di Maria considering a return to Rosario Central. Victor Lindelof says he has no desire to play in Saudi Arabia yet. And Leeds are set to offer Archie Gray, 18, an improved contract in the summer amid interest from top 6 Premier League clubs. That's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Check your sources. Check your sources. Check your sources. Jared Smith, what is on your mind this morning as we wait for Niko Moreno?
Oh, not a lot. Just midweek. It's the time of peace and tranquility now because Open Cup is behind us.
We still got matchups tonight, brother.
Oh, it is? God, we do. I don't know what day it is. It's a fun existence. I think it was like Tuesday morning. I was like, you know what? It's good that it's Wednesday afternoon. Oh, God, it's not. Oh, God. No. Well, see, my schedule got thrown off because I didn't have to do my U.S. Open Cup game.
That's true. And as we mentioned, it looks like
Apotheos moved through.
Yeah, it looks like we are going to have the commissioner of NISA, John Prooch. It looks like we're shooting for next Tuesday.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, NISA needed what happened this week, which is good things to happen because NISA had a good showing for the teams that were in the tournament. I think they needed that after the season got pushed back, the issues with Georgia Lions, which are a myriad. And it like so many other things, it's complicated. Like it's never just a straight, simple answer.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed what they got this week, which is NISA teams having a good week in the Open Cup. Need a little bit of good momentum for them heading into the season.
That we do. It is that time. It is the final half hour on your Thursday, which means for this we now go to Seattle. We ask the important questions of our buddy Niko Moreno. Important questions like, what is the coffee mug? How many cups of coffee are you on as you prepare for the Inquisition here on a Thursday? And so we bring in our buddy from Pulso Sports and from the Soccer Bar, Niko Moreno, to ask the hard-hitting questions. John and Jared asking the hard-hitting questions. What's the mug and what cup of coffee are you on, sir, to start this segment?
Hey, what's going on? John, Jared, SDH family. We are on cup number 2. We got the Rafe Green mug right here, the ones that gets lost a little bit within the the magic of my background. But yes, we are Cup number 2. Lots to talk about. We got some international games. We have MLS. We're just excited to be on here, guys.
All right. So what I will do, since Jared is here, I will yield the first question to Jared_Smith with Niko, as Thursdays with Niko begins right now.
All right, Niko, let's start with, we're at the first international window. We've got 3 to 4 games under everyone's belt. People are feeling good, unless you're Miami, in which case your knees are probably hurt and you've got ice on them. Who's been your biggest surprise at this little first checkpoint?
You mean for MLS?
Oh, for MLS, yeah. Sorry, your biggest surprise in MLS so far.
I mean, since I've touched on a few in the last couple of shows, I'm going to swing right, and I'm going to go with one that I had been critical of that has looked exciting, entertaining, dangerous. They seem to really have their attack at least figured out, and that's the LA Galaxy. I really thought going into this year that we're going to need more time to settle in, to move on from Javier Hernandez, to figure out exactly what went right, what went wrong last season. Not a lot went right. This was one of the worst defenses. This was a lackluster attack a lot of times. And this year, with Pencil on the right side, just making it so easy for Delgado to be now the lead and assist man for the league in general, because all you have to do is put a ball in front of this man and he's going to drive it 30, 40, 50 yards and score. He's just been a game changer. Ricky has not taken on a new role, but I think he's taking his role more seriously. Maybe is the Ricky push in the back of the jersey instead of Ricky or Pug what he had before in the back. He just seems so much more composed. He seems to be getting on the ball a lot more. Love what Fagundes is doing on that left side. If you look at the first goal against St. Louis, I mean, it's a work of art, the build-up, the movement, the stunt by Joveljic, who is now your leading scorer in MLS with 4 goals, or tied with, obviously, quite a few other players. But the stunt to go inside, I stay out. They find me in the back of the 18, but a little bit farther back. Then I take the nice touch, give myself some space, put it away. There is the Gabriel Peck possibility. So now you have depth. You're getting guys back. So all in all, I'm not saying this LA team is going to be unstoppable, because you could see in this St. Louis game that they still have some holes to fill. They seem to generate a lot, because this could have very easily been a 5-3 game in favor of LA against St. Louis. But you got to fix some of those things in the midfield when it comes to recovering, to closing down, to not allowing big lanes. But Yoshida gives them the draw there at the end of the game. So I really like what I'm seeing from a Greg Vanney team that we have been very critical of last season. So they've been a nice surprise. They're a team that they're not my Atlanta, Orlando, Columbus, those teams that I have to watch. But I'm starting to, if I have some extra time at night, I'll put on a LA Galaxy game.
Well, and with LAG, since we're talking about it, P3, it is that power protein pack that a lot of folks can get, at the, they can go to the Arco, or they can go to Ralph's or Albertsons, and, on the checkout lane, they can grab that P3 and they can get it done. And for LAG right now, it is Paintsel, it is Puig, and it is Gabriel Peck. And Paintsel came in once he was signed on Wednesday, came in on the weekend, and he already showed you that he was going to be trouble. He instantly hit 5th gear in that car, and, transmission didn't drop, oil didn't fall out, the hood didn't pop up. He hit the ground running. LAG, they're dropped, $19 million on Peck and Paintsel to bring in to help out Puig and Greg Vanney. So far, so good to help out Dejan Joveljic, the Bishop up top.
Yeah, and to that is also what I kind of mentioned in terms of depth, because now you have possibilities, you have options. Who you're going to be your two guys out wide? Are you going to maybe have times where you do bring Fagundes out, and Fagundes is a so versatile player who you could drop a line. So there's just so many things that you can do. Cerrillo's been really good for this team, and now Bregman is coming back. Bregman is a must start in my book. So now maybe Cerrillo becomes the guy that's coming off the bench. So there's just a lot of pieces that you didn't have last season. And when you have quality players, you have dangerous, dynamic players that can score, plus a good system, everything you do just becomes easier if you're Greg Vanney. So quite honestly, if they can figure out how to be as dangerous on the ball, but also be more disciplined on defense, this could be a team that might start to find a little bit of an identity and be a dangerous squad. So there's still things to fix, but I love to see an entertaining LA Galaxy, which we weren't able to say last year.
No doubt about it. Jarrett, go for it.
Let's go across town because I want to talk about the team that won a title 2 years ago, but LAFC just kind of, it feels like it's, I don't know, it feels to me like it's kind of getting a little stagnant right now. Like teams are sitting back more, not letting them have those transition opportunities. I know they've been linked this week, rumors being what they are, to Olivier Giroud, but what's going on with LAFC? It just seems like it's something feels different and off, you know?
Yeah, I just think they are taking it extremely slow, and maybe they didn't expect to be this low in the Western Conference table, and they didn't expect to not get as many results as they have. But they have not ventured from their plan. They knew that they had the DP spots open. They knew that they were short in the roster. They understood that the guys that they did pick up were younger guys that they were going to need a time to develop their prospects. So because of that, you've seen the lack of use of that bench by Chirundolo. You've seen the necessity for Christian Oliveira to be out there more, for a guy like Ilie Sanchez to be out there a little more than you possibly wanted him to. Denis Bouanga, he's been good. He's gotten to the final third, but he hasn't been as effective, as clinical in front of goal. So I am not in panic mode with this LAFC team. I think that they are playing to the rhythm of their drums, and right now they might be playing R&B, but give them a couple of weeks and they'll be hip hopping all around the league. So I really do believe that they are just kind of playing at their own beat. And once these players, you just mentioned Giroud, I mean, he gives them a whole different type of 9 up top, and maybe you're not as mobile when it comes to the movements that you have right now in that band of 3 up top, but you have a real goal scorer, which you haven't had in a very long time. Despite Bouanga, I get it. He scored all the goals, but that's just not his role. I'm talking about the 9th position. So, yeah, I just think that once the rest of the roster gets filled, you'll start to see what this LAFC team's all about. It's just too soon for me to say, hey, we should start worrying about LAFC.
Okay, because I'll go there. I mean, with La Banda being what it was in the past, and it was when Carlos Vela was obviously a lot younger, and Carlos Vela now at the age of 4,712 is the starting striker for Without Club FC. When I look at LAFC and what we're seeing with Steve Cherundolo, it's an entirely different vibe now where, offensively they're hiccuping and you don't know what you're going to be getting on a daily basis. And I think that Cherundolo at times seems to, he wants to pull back. He doesn't want to, he wants to go up the hill and make sure that you're going up the hill in second and third gear. He's not mashing the gas pedal to the floor like we've seen in the past. It's almost trying to be more defensive in your posture, picking your spots. And it's like, it's a different drive out there for LAFC. And I don't know what has gotten into Steve Cherundolo. He's coaching differently now with the offensive firepower that he has. I mean, is he waiting from window to window to see how I can, put, patches on the pipes under the sink and then try to figure out what's going on? It just seems like it's a different vibe now with Cherundolo coaching.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. And maybe that's what Jared was alluding to. And that is true. I want to say maybe halfway through last year, he started being a lot more pragmatic and playing what they say against the ball, right? We're going to just not necessarily possess it. We're going to be more direct. We're going to worry about just staying tighter down low. Against Seattle, in Seattle, you saw that if it wasn't because the Sounders didn't have an informed goal scorer, one goal could have changed that entire game, right? Because Seattle had plenty of chances. LAFC was playing deeper, was playing without possession. So this season is more of the same, right? Because of maybe it is the style that Cherundolo wants to take in. Maybe he feels like that's what's more effective for his team. When you have guys like Denis Bouanga, when you got guys like Christian Oliveira that are so quick in transition, when you got a guy like Boguc that maybe playing that role as a false nine, maybe could be more used if we're playing some of that counter-attacking ball. So it could be that alone. But again, I think that because of what we did see early in the season last year for this LAFC team, maybe it's just Cherundolo being able to specialize his team playing one way since he had already dominated the other, and then he's going to have a squad that can play either type of soccer depending on the situation, depending on the opponent. But to your point, yes, it is true. He has been playing more against the ball than maybe we saw when he first started coaching LAFC.
One question, Jarrett, before I let you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Lord.
What'd you do? Bruh broke his camera. Do you anticipate a Carlos Vela signing in Major League Soccer, or where do you anticipate Carlos Vela picking up his next paycheck from other than without Club FC?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do expect him to stay in MLS. I still not hope, but I still feel like LA is the place where he wants to be. I think all of us that have followed his career here with MLS and just not on the field but off the field, his family, what he talks about, his likes, his dislikes, he enjoys that LA life, right? The being able to go to the basketball games, being able to have his family there. He is not a guy that I would see going to Mexico to play, although I guess I didn't think Javier Hernandez would ever go back to Liga MX. But yes, I think that he ultimately will end up here. He has most of his value here. I think that there are teams that are interested, whether it's San Jose or Colorado or LA. I think he'll end up staying in MLS. I don't foresee him going anywhere. I know that he had mentioned Spain, that him and his wife would like to go back to Spain, go back to Europe. I also don't see that as a possibility. So I do think that MLS, the United States, is where he's going to end up in.
Go for it, Jarrett.
As far as some of the projects that we have around the league that have been trying to get off the ground this year, you mentioned two of them. Like Colorado is trying to figure themselves out. It's a whole new thing with Armas. I wanted to ask about San Jose if we want to stay in California for a moment, though, because like it ain't San Jose is not it right now. How much of it is what he's got to work with, and is Lucci in trouble, and how much of it is on him?
I don't know if it's on him, but if this is a project, this is one of those buildings with half scaffolding and some trenches open on the side, and there isn't really nobody working there. You just know that it has to be a project. That's kind of what I see from San Jose. I guess respectfully, maybe you can't be respectful after saying that.
But how can you be respectful for the guy that owns the Oakland A's? And it seems to be, I don't know if distracted is the right word, but he's more focused on moving his baseball team to Vegas. Vegas doesn't want him. And that seems to be where John Fisher seems to be spending most of his brain power these days.
Yeah, I agree. And this ain't Moneyball team. This ain't a money team roster. I mean, it really is difficult to look at what Lucci has to work with and ultimately make him the scapegoat. I can't, right? I look at the roster. I've said it 3 or 4 times in this show, you look at the departures last season and you look at the arrivals and you're like, man, what were they doing, right? I mean, there just isn't enough material for him to work with, and you can't just focus on Espinosa being the it guy every time and him to hold the entire responsibility of creating, finishing, being that it guy. I know that Judd is a good player, but he's just not a starter, right? He's more of a co-stellar piece, right? He's a guy that may be coming off the bench that maybe he needs other players around him. They just don't have him. Ibobose has kind of had to step back because of the same thing. You don't have enough service into you. You don't have enough people putting you in the right prime positions to score, not to mention how bad they're in the midfield, right? Gresso can only do so much. Yule's a guy that he's, medium tier when it comes to his position. So I just don't see the vision. I don't see the structure or what you're planning to do with this team. And I think that's the biggest problem, right? Because when we've had Almada here, we've had Lucci, we've had all these different coaches that have tried to work with what you have in San Jose. And it doesn't matter if you're good for 2 weeks, exciting for half a year, you just never go anywhere with San Jose. And that maybe has to do with ownership, that front office, more than anybody on the field, including the coaching staff.
All right, so since we're on a roll here in the Western Conference, let me go to Portland. And Portland bringing in Jonathan Rodriguez from Club America. That was a heavyweight pull. They needed some firepower up top, and so you bring in Jonah Rodriguez from Club America. What did you think about your rivals to the south there in Portland?
I mean, you kind of saw it coming. I mean, it was written in the water. They were going to get their Liga MX striker, no matter who it was, whether it was Herman or whether it was Cabecita. They get Cabecita. It's more of a win now move, and it's definitely a guy that he's not here to develop or grow or adapt. He's going to come here to score goals right off the plane. You know, as soon as he steps in, you're going to have the responsibility for the Uruguayan to put it away. And he's shown it. He's done it in Liga MX. He's a guy that is a great finisher. He has great tactical skills. He can link up play. He has that confidence that you want in a striker, where it's going to be, you miss a shot, you're going to put in 3. I think he's going to fit well with what Portland has been showing. The speed out wide, the service into him, having a guy like Evander behind him, having a guy like Anthony next to him, having a guy like Moreno on the other side. I really do think that he is a piece that is going to give this Portland team a big push in terms of caliber and eliteness. And because of that, that just makes them a big Western Conference contender to either stay in the high 1, 2, 3 spots, or why not just take the West? Because look, I understand that they haven't been brilliant, and I don't want to come over here and get on the bandwagon that this team is amazing, because they haven't been brilliant, but they've been effective and they have showed character. And for all the complaints and things that I've said about Neville, he has been able to get this group going. He has shown that being a little bit of a motivator has gone long ways with this squad. They play more free. They've been able to, just simply show it to you on the field. So I think Cabecita is a perfect move for this team. And I think that it does put them in, at the very least, in the conversation for contender to win the West. I'll say that.
Thursdays with Niko at El Rolo NW at the Soccer Bar and at Sports Pulso. Jarrett Smith, what's next on your mind for Niko Moreno?
I know we didn't have any MLS teams in it this week, and we still got a little bit of magic and chaos left for tonight. But anything to take away for you from the first few days of U.S. Open Cup, with 2 teams in there, NISA teams in there, a couple amateur teams are moving on as well.
I got to be honest, I didn't see much of the U.S. Open Cup other than the Ballard FC and Velocity.
I figured you were keeping an eye on Ballard. I figured you were going to be looking at Ballard, the reigning USL League Two champs.
Yes, I would have loved to go down there to Memorial Stadium in the shadow of the Space Needle to watch this game. I just was unable to do so. My son had a game, but it is sad to see Ballard go because of the connections that they've kind of made, right? Riley, the coach, and Nagel involved with the team in a general sense. And then they lost to the Velocity of Spokane, which is sad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I analyzed the game or that I watched the whole thing or anything. I was just keeping an eye on it. But if it comes to Open Cup, that's probably the one thing that I saw was just Ballard FC not being able to push through in their very first U.S. Open Cup game ever. So sad to see them go.
All right, so then let me go to the Eastern Conference before we get into cliffhanger here for the week that will be. And there's going to be a lot of folks gone for international call-ups. Gonzalo Pineda, let me ask you about what you've seen and what you've thought about Atlanta coming out of the blocks with a full training camp with the guys that they brought in the summer window. Things, seem to be humming. Yes, I know that you're taking care of business against teams that are playing in CONCACAF, but you're still taking care of business. You put a 4 on New England. You got the win over the purple team, and now you got a tough one going to Toronto. You don't know which Toronto you're going to get. They don't have Larea, Osorio, or Davy Flores. This one will be intriguing, and I think it's going to be the offense of Atlanta or the offense of Toronto against the defense of Atlanta. What have you thought about Gonzalo Pineda and Atlanta United so far?
I think they've looked good. Watching that Orlando game and watching the game against New England, if there's something that stands out is that Pineda wants to get the team running and wants everybody to know exactly where they have to be when space opens up. Having a guy like Giacomakis and being as smart as he is and forcing teams to know exactly where he's at and demanding the type of marking that he demands is beautiful to watch. I mean, against Orlando, it could have been a 4-0 game, a 4-1 game, depending if Orlando gets kind of lucky on a couple of shots that they've had. But that's kind of what I see from them is just an idea, an ability to, at least on offense, get Wiley going, get Lennon going, create this advantage numerically and push numbers forward, get Silva going. Saba, very smart player. You saw it in that first goal. When he sees that Giacomakis wins that ball, Giacomakis is servicing, that's a masterpiece. And then Saba being able to kind of cut inside, break the guy's ankles and put it away. So you see the components. I see the Pineda DNA within it, within the structure. So hoping that everything that we've been waiting Pineda to finally cement with his IQ, soccer IQ, plus the talent, I'm starting to see it. And look, I know people were freaking out with Colorado, the Colorado game, but that's a tough team to play, especially that early in the season. This game against Orlando kind of shows you a little bit more. Is there kind of a undermark of saying, well, this Orlando team struggled and they didn't have Araujo and they didn't have Cartagena? Sure. Yeah, there were things that weren't there for Orlando, but ultimately it's about how your team executes the game plan, and they executed it beautifully. So I think that, and you heard it from Pineda himself, defensively is the one side that they want to make sure to work with. That's something that he hasn't been able to do since he arrived at Atlanta. That's always been a little bit of his own criticism within him. He switches to a 5-man backline because he saw he was given a lot of space out in wide positions. He doesn't want to do that. He says, I want to defend better with the line of 4. So it's a work in progress defensively. I think his final product offensively. But all in all, I am very hyped about this Atlanta team. I think they're going to be fighting the top of the East all season long. And as long as no injuries happen and this team stays healthy, I think they're a big contender in the East.
All right, so it's time for cliffhanger, but I want to focus on one game in particular, and it's the game at the end of the schedule. And the reason I'm focusing on this one match specifically is because it is Jarrett's Quakes against Seattle. Juice boxes in this one. San Jose 10:30, so a 10:40 kick on Apple TV. San Jose is a plus 162 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal to get the win. Draws a plus 225. Seattle is a plus 171. Let me start with Jarrett here and get Jarrett's thoughts on this one with San Jose and Seattle. And this one is right under the shadow of the San Jose airport. Jarrett, your early thoughts?
I can't trust San Jose right now. I mean, we talked about it's a project. It's a matter of them putting together a complete 90 minutes. We saw them play SKC last week. They got out in front, but they're lacking that consistency. They're not putting their foot down on anybody's neck, but to get there in the first place, they have to get up and stay up and try and control the game. Even when you're not controlling the ball, you have to be able to at least you'll get into the corner, get your hands up around your head, and then try and fight your way out of it at times. And right now, that's just not who they are. And I know the Seattle team is a bit older, especially in those key pieces that we've known for years now. Feels like Raul Diaz has been there since 2015. I know he hasn't. It just feels like that in my head. That's my headcanon. That's what I'll go with. But skepticism about Seattle aside, it is a Schmetzer team, and it is a veteran team with young pieces that know the system. So I mean, I'm not taking San Jose here, because I think when push comes to shove, one of these teams might flinch. I think right now that San Jose, while they're trying to figure themselves out, and Seattle's, even if they're not, and I know Niko, you talked about Seattle having someone finish consistently in front of net, but I feel like they are more well equipped to not flinch if it gets close late.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair and very good analysis on what we might potentially see. The reason why I am more comfortable going with Seattle in this one is simply because they're dying for a win. I think that this team has been close to get one. It's been small things here and there. Against Colorado, it's a red card by Josh Atencio, a foul on top of the box by Leyva, a ricochet that magically falls on Cabral. Nobody closes it down. It's a 1-1 game. So defensively, I feel comfortable saying Seattle is going to go to San Jose, not concede any goals. So they're going to be in the game for 90 minutes. Can they score? Can Jordan Morris and Raul Diaz find the right chemistry to not just get to prime scoring positions, but when they get there, can they put it in the back of the net? I am of the thought process that at some point, I would love to see Jordan back on the wing, playing out wide. He's never been a guy that's just a goal scorer, and I feel like that's tough for him. He was asked this week if he felt like he was involved enough in the game. He responded that he wasn't, that he needs to get more on the ball. I don't think that his style of play benefits by him getting 17 to 20 to 25 touches a game, because he needs to get on a rhythm. But just to stick to this particular game, guys are still missing. No JP for this one. Obviously, Stefan Frey will be back, but that's in the back end. Albert will be back. We'll see whether they start him, whether they're not. He only played a certain amount of minutes last week, so is he ready to start the game? I'm not quite sure. If we see the 4-4-2 again, I feel like this will be a very organized team that is going to be able to control the game, control the tempo of the game, control possession, but I don't know if they have that push. That said, because this team is so hungry for a win, I think they'll create enough to either get a foul in the box, get a foul around the box, and then maybe just get a goal in that nature. So I'm going to go with Seattle, but I'm not extremely confident that that's going to be the case. I do know they won't concede. The draw is probably your best bet on this one, if I'm a gambling man, which I am. But, if you are getting some juice boxes on it, I will go for the draw. But here, with the analysis that I'm providing you, I think that Seattle will ultimately find spaces behind a midfield that has had issues this season in San Jose, holding back teams. I feel like maybe Leo Chu could find more space that he has lately on that left hand side. And perhaps, just perhaps, the right pass gets done, right decision gets made, and Seattle gets a goal.
All right, let's roll through the other matchups here in Cliffhanger. And you hear something, go ahead and just yell stop, and we'll talk about it. Revs favored at home on the minus side, hosting Chicago. Red Bulls favored at home against Messi and friends. Messi and friends are going to be and friends. And when you got Luis Suarez, it's not a bad and friends to have. Get this. Messi and friends are a plus 202 going to Harrison, New Jersey to take on Red Bulls. Charlotte at home. Yeah. Charlotte at home hosting Crew. Crew's a plus 145 on the road. Cincinnati on the minus side hosting NYCFC. Purple team heavy on the minus side. Austin FC visiting them at a plus 375. Toronto favored on the plus side at a plus 123, hosting Atlanta, who's a plus 206. Vancouver gets Vanni Sartini back. They're a minus 123, hosting RSL. Let me ask you about Sporting and LAG. Sporting a minus 115, LAG a plus 268,
Ooh.
and the draw is a plus 300. What do you think?
Man, ooh.
That woke him up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the draws, that number for the draw is crazy. But I'm going to have to go with the LA Galaxy, man. Look, I know Sporting Kansas City has also looked good. I like what Rosero's done. He seems like he's finally completely became the man of that back line for Sporting Kansas City. But there's just too much firepower for LA Galaxy. I don't know if Sporting Kansas City has enough firepower to match that. They're not going to go blow for blow, or they just don't have the jab power or hook power. So I'm going to go ahead and take the LA Galaxy on this one for sure. That's some nice numbers there. Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Figured you'd dig that one. All caps, even money plus 100 hosting DC United. Colorado and the Rabid Prairie Dogs are favored against Houston Dynamo. LAFC heavy on the minus side, a minus 172, hosting Nashville, who's north of plus 450. And Portland.
Look, I am the resident Nashville hater, but that's a number.
Yeah. Draws a plus 311 in the composite. Nashville's a plus 454 on the road at LAFC. And then Portland is hosting Philly. Portland is a plus 116. Philadelphia is a plus 211 on the road. Your draw is a plus 266. Niko, what's going on with Pulso Sports and the Soccer Bar? And I imagine that Soccer Bar, you got another conversation to have in about 50 minutes.
I will not. I am. I want it to be, but we've had a very heavy schedule coming up. We all have things to do. John is going to be in Portland at the Cabecita presentation. I have something going on with the Sounders as well. So we're not going to have a show today, but we'll definitely be back on Monday. Do look at Pulso Sports for everything that's going on this week. The biggest thing is Alex Roldan expressing his frustration with the El Salvador Federation. He completely pulled away from the national team. He told us that he's no longer going to be playing for that national team. It's created a huge boom in El Salvador because those who don't know, that federation hasn't even cared enough for players to provide the most minimal things for them. Logistics, a jacket to wear in cold weather. I mean, just the simplest things. So Alex, being the person that he is, he didn't go and tell like anybody or the press exactly all the problems, but we know the problems. All he's saying is, I'm not committed completely, and if I'm not committed, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna give that space, that opening, that chance to someone else. And I'm frustrated with how things are handled down there. So go ahead and check that out. It's great to just hear him, as young as he is, be as wise as he is, and to take on a bad situation forward to the point that it's created a huge conversation around the real issue in El Salvador. Not the fact that he's not going to play, but the fact that so many players are willing to not play because of the issues with the federation. So check that out at Pulso Sports for sure.
No doubt about it. As always, my friend, enjoy your second cup of coffee, and we will catch up with you next week. May you be safe. May everything stick to the recordings and the tapes and the cards, and we'll catch up with you next week, my friend. Thanks for hanging out.
All righty, guys. Have a good one.
That is Niko Moreno at Sports Pulso Sports, and at the Soccer Bar. So it's great to always have Niko dropping by first thing on his Thursday morning to, well, he might be the second or third thing because he's got to take folks to school. He's got to go out and walk the dog. He's got to make sure that everything is locked down in the Niko Moreno universe to make sure that he's good to drop in and hang out with us. Thanks to everybody who was listening and a part of our midweek mashup at Villa Rica last night. The Midtown boys and girls getting the sweep in Region 5-5A. That was big for them. Midtown solidifying their spot on the boys' side at the top of the region standings. Villa Rica's got some work to do in the sprint to try to get into the playoffs. Right now, they're below 500 on the boys' side. And a prolific offense on the girls' side in Villa Rica slowed down. Midtown got the win there last night as well. Big wins for Midtown on the boys and the girls. And so we will have our game of the week on tomorrow. Don't know if it's 5:30 or 7:30 or 6 or 8. We'll keep you posted on the where and the when and all of that. Once again, reminder, if you missed it, interview with Maddie and Roy Lassiter, catching up with Carolina Core. Carolina Core is going to be at the Fraction as the run of home matches for Atlanta United 2 starts off their MLS Next Pro season. And it is a 3 o'clock kick, 3:03 kick, 2:30 pregame show on the SDH network at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. I will be there. Jason will be there for play-by-play. Maddie will be there hosting. And maybe Jared will even be there too. But it's going to be the Cast of Thousands Sunday at the Fraction, 2:30 for your pregame, 3:03 for your kick, with Carolina Core making the trip after their matchup with Crown Legacy. It'd be interesting to see how many fans make the trip from the home of Carolina Core to this matchup. 500 made the trip to Crown Legacy to see them at Matthews. Let's see what the crowd support's like for Carolina Core. Maddie caught up with Roy Lassiter. Great conversation there. It is on the network. If you've also missed it, new episode of the Soccer for US POD. Barton Thomas look at Nations League. Once again, 7 o'clock tonight. Paramount Plus, 2 to NA. It is the United States and Jamaica, depleted Jamaican side. After that one at 10:15 at Jerry World, it is Panama and El Tri. Winners play this weekend, and we are efforting to have Bart on either right out of the blocks at 9:05, or he'll be on in hour number 2, whichever can work out better for him so he can vent his spleen about what happens tonight, tomorrow morning. Friends from Beyond Goals, hopefully joining us at 9:30. We can whip around patent pending trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. Starting after that, in hour number 2, a lot going on. NWSL is going on. League One is going on. USL Championship's going on. MLS is going on. We'll go through all the juice boxes and the analysis for all of the matchups tomorrow in Major League Soccer in hour number 2 to get you ready for the weekend. So once again, thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us as you always do. We'll be back at it again in a little under 22 hours. Once again, fresh content. We're going to pull Jason's segment in addition to posting the show to the network. We'll pull the Tyler Pilgrim segment from yesterday. We'll add that to the mix as well, and everything else that is going on here at SDH. Thanks for hanging out with us and being a part of it all. For all of us here, for Manny, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Niko, and for me. This is what happens when you actually push the live button and you go live for 2 hours. That's another go-round of SDH Soccer's morning show, back at it a little under 22 hours. Mucha plati, I'll play it safe, and since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be back at you again 9 o'clock tomorrow morning because we've got to be out by 11. So 9 o'clock start tomorrow. We're starting a little early, but it's the end of today. That means I get to do this.